Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Galactic Genocide. Humanity's vengeance will be legendary. Commander Hannah Park stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel, her dark eyes fixed on the gleaming silver spires of the Galactic Council headquarters. The massive structure floated in space, a testament to the unity of 1,000 alien civilizations. Behind her, Earth's small delegation prepared for the quarterly summit, unaware that this day would change humanity's future forever. Hannah adjusted her navy blue uniform, the single gold star on her C marking her as humanity's military liaison. After 20 years of provisional membership in the Council, Earth still struggled to find its voice among ancient civilizations that measured their histories in millennia rather than centuries. "Commander, we're receiving a request for your presence in Subchamber 17, her aide said, checking his tablet. Something about resource allocation discussions. Hannah frowned. That wasn't on the schedule. It came directly from Counselor Reth's office. She nodded and made her way through the station's curved corridors. Reth represented the Valder, one of the few council species that had consistently supported humanity's integration. The Council's Byzantine politics meant Earth needed every ally it could find. The subchamber was empty when she arrived, its oval table bare except for a single data pad. Hannah approached it cautiously, years of military training making her wary of unexpected situations. The screen activated at her touch, revealing encrypted files that shouldn't have been accessible to her clearance level. The first document made her blood run cold. Assessment of Human Expansion Threat, Final Recommendation. As she read, her hands began to shake. The document detailed plans to contain humanity's growth using a multi-phase approach. The Council's inner circle had secretly classified humans as a destabilizing element due to their unpredictable advancement patterns and genetic predisposition toward aggression. A sound at the door made her quickly download the files to her personal device. She turned to see Reth entering, his elongated blue face grim. "You found it," he said quietly. "I hope you would." "What is this?" Hannah demanded. "Is this official?" "It was approved last month. I only learned of it yesterday." Reth's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of distress in his species. "They're calling it the Humanity Containment Protocol. The first phase begins today." Today, Hannah's heart raced. "We need to warn Earth immediately. That's why I arranged this. My position on the Resource Committee won't protect me for long, but I couldn't stand by while." The station's lights suddenly shifted to deep red, and an announcement echoed in the alien language of the Council's founders. Reth's face drained of color. "No, they've accelerated the timeline." "What did that message say?" Hannah demanded, grabbing her communicator. "They've declared a Class 1 biological threat originating from human colonies. It's the pretext they're using to establish a quarantine perimeter." He moved closer, dropping to a whisper. "But there is no biological threat, Commander. The quarantine ships are armed for orbital strikes." Hannah tried to contact actorship, but all communications were being jammed. "I need to get back to my vessel. Take the service corridors. I'll create a distraction at the main security checkpoint." Reth pressed a key card into her hand. "This will get you to Docking Bay 6. Your ship is in 9, but the corridors connect." "Why are you helping us?" she asked. "Because this is wrong," he said simply. "Now go." Hannah ran, the stolen data burning in her pocket. The service corridors were narrow and dimly lit, designed for the Council's maintenance drones. Twice she had to hide as security teams rushed past. The Council station had transformed from a diplomatic hub to a military command center in minutes. When she finally reached her ship, the crew was already on high alert. "Commander, we've lost all official channels to Earth and the colonies," her pilot reported. "Something big is happening. Prepare for immediate departure." Hannah ordered emergency protocols. "The station isn't granting departure clearance. We're leaving anyway." Now, as her ship disengaged from the dock, alarms blared through the viewports. Hannah saw dozens of Council warships activating their engines, forming into battle groups set course for New Harmony Colony. "Maximum speed," she ordered. New Harmony was humanity's largest off-Earth settlement, home to over 6 million people. As her ship entered faster-than-light travel, Hannah reviewed the stolen files, her horror growing with each page. The council hadn't just planned containment, they had voted for elimination. Humanity was deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed unfettered growth. Hours later, they dropped out of FTL on the edge of the New Harmony system and immediately detected the energy signatures of multiple council warships. "They're already here," the tactical officer whispered. "Get me visual." Hannah ordered, "Keep your voice steady despite the fear clawing at your throat." The main screen activated, showing a nightmare. Council ships surrounded the colony, their weapons already firing. The orbital defense platforms, New Harmony's primary protection, were destroyed, drifting as shattered debris on the planet's surface. Bright flashes marked the impact points of kinetic bombardment. "Are they targeting the cities?" someone asked. "Hannah, I couldn't speak. The targeting was precise and methodical. The council ships were deliberately striking population centers, one after another." "We're being hailed by a council vessel," the communications officer reported. "Ignore it," Hannah said. "Maintain our position just beyond their sensor range." For 30 minutes, they watched in horrified silence as New Harmony burned. Occasional emergency transmissions broke through the jamming, desperate pleas for help, confused questions about why the council ships were firing, the screams of the dying. "Commander," her pilot finally said, "we can't help them, not with one ship." Hannah knew he was right. "Set course for Earth maximum speed. We need to warn them before the council ships arrive." As they prepared to jump to FTL, a massive council dreadnought appeared directly in their path, weapons charging. "Evasive maneuvers," Hannah shouted. Their smaller ship dove beneath the dreadnought, its arc engines straining as they executed a series of random jumps to throw off pursuit. Through skill and desperation, they managed to break away from the council forces, but not before catching one final glimpse of New Harmony from orbit. The colony that had been humanity's greatest achievement now resembled a burning ember, its cities transformed into craters, its atmosphere filled with smoke. The council ships were methodically working their way across the planet's surface, ensuring nothing survived, the science officer reported, his voice breaking. "At least 4 million dead and rising." Hannah gripped the command chair, her knuckles white. Similar massacres would be happening at 6 other colonies, millions of lives extinguished without warning or mercy. "Record everything," she ordered. "Every sensor reading, every transmission. Earth needs to know exactly what happened here." She paused, looking at the devastation one final time before they jumped to FTL. "And the Council needs to learn that humanity doesn't fall easily." As their ship disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying the evidence of an atrocity and the seeds of humanity's rage, Hannah made a solemn promise to the dead of New Harmony. The Galactic Council had made a fatal miscalculation. They thought they were containing a threat. Instead, they had created one. The observation deck of Sanctuary Base offered a clear view of the asteroid field that concealed humanity's last hope. Admiral Hannah Park stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching as a convoy of 3 mismatched ships docked with the hidden station. More survivors, more refugees. Each ship that found its way to them was both a victory and a reminder of their losses. "Admiral, the Defense Council is ready," a young officer said from behind her. Hannah nodded and turned away from the viewport. In the 3 months since the massacre, she had aged years. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and new streaks of gray marked her black hair. The provisional rank of admiral sat heavily on her shoulders, a battlefield promotion granted after most of Earth's military command had been killed during a peace summit that turned into an ambush. The command center was carved directly into the heart of a massive asteroid. Exposed rock formed the ceiling and walls, with hastily installed equipment giving the place a cobbled-together appearance. Around a central table stood the remains of humanity's leadership. "The Polaris colony has gone silent," Colonel T. Kim reported as Hannah entered. His face remained expressionless as he delivered the news, but his eyes burned with the same cold fury that had consumed him since losing his wife and 3 children on New Harmony. "That makes 8 colonies we've lost contact with, confirmed destroyed," Hannah asked. "No confirmation, just silence." He tapped the display showing the star map with red markers indicating fallen colonies. "But we should assume the worst. Dr. Jinquin looked up from his terminal. Unlike the military personnel, the scientist wore civilian clothes, though they were worn and stained from constant work. The Council is being thorough. They're not just destroying our major colonies, they're hunting down the smallest outposts. Why was Earth spared? Asked one of the civilian leaders, a former governor of a mining colony. Not that I'm complaining, but it doesn't make sense, Hana interjected. We've confirmed that a minority faction within the Council opposed the genocide. The Alacran, the Valder, and 2 other species threatened to withdraw from the Council if Earth was attacked. Since Earth houses our main fleet and planetary defenses, the Council decided to focus on the colonies first. They'll come for Earth eventually, Colonel T said flatly. They're just picking off the easier targets first, which buys us time, Hannah countered. Time we desperately need. The meeting continued as they discussed supply shortages, refugee placement, and the integration of civilian vessels into their makeshift fleet. Humanity was on the defensive, scattered and outgunned, but not defeated. Not yet. Later, Hannah found herself in Jin's laboratory, where the scientist was examining a disassembled piece of Council technology. The lab was cluttered with alien devices salvaged from battlefields or stolen by daring raiders. You wanted to see me, Jin? Hannah asked. He looked up, excitement breaking through his exhaustion. Yes, I found something remarkable. He gestured to a neural interface helmet connected to a Council computer core. I've been testing how different human subjects interact with Council tech. Watch this. He placed the helmet on his head and closed his eyes. The alien computer activated a holographic display showing streams of data. Council technology is partially Shannic. Their dominant species evolved with minor telepathic abilities, so their tech responds to thought patterns. We've known this for years, Hannah said, trying to mask her impatience. But here's what we didn't know, Jin interjected. He removed the helmet and handed her a tablet. Human brain patterns interact with their technology in completely unexpected ways. Where Council species access the systems in predictable, ordered sequences, human thought follows chaotic, associative patterns. Hannah studied the comparative brain scans. And this matters because their security systems can't properly contain human thought patterns. Jin's eyes were bright with discovery. It's like trying to use a square filter to block a liquid. Our minds slip through the cracks in their security algorithms. Understanding dawned on Hannah's face. You're saying we can hack their system. Not just hack them, we can access functions they don't even know exist. Jin pulled up another display. Council tech is built in layers with older systems buried under new ones. Their telepathic interfaces only activate the functions they're familiar with, but human minds trigger unexpected activations, accessing forgotten protocols and emergency overrides. This is why they fear us. They sensed we could bypass their safeguards, Hannah said softly. Exactly, Jin nodded vigorously. It's not just our physical expansion they feared, it's our mental incompatibility with their systems. We're unpredictable to them in the most fundamental way. The implications are enormous. Council weaponry, navigation systems, even their communication networks are all potentially vulnerable to human interference. Their discussion was interrupted by an emergency alert in the command center. Colonel Tai was directing a rescue operation. One of our scout ships found a civilian transport hiding in the Sirius debris field, he explained as Hannah entered. Council hunters were closing in, our team engaged to cover the transport's escape. The tactical display showed 3 small human fighters against a Council patrol vessel. The human ships darted around the larger enemy, using the debris field for cover. They're outgunned, Hannah observed tensely. Yes, but they're buying time for the transport to reach the jump point. Taz's face remained impassive, though his hands clenched as they watched the uneven battle unfold. One human fighter erupted in a ball of flame as a Council energy beam connected. The second fighter immediately dove toward the Council ship, firing all weapons in a suicide run that damaged the larger vessel's sensors. That's Captain Min, someone whispered. He has a wife on the transport. The third fighter seized the moment, slipping into the Council ship's blind spot and launching a precision strike against its engines. The damaged Council vessel began to drift, its power systems failing. Transport is away, the communications officer reported. All ships returned to base, but the remaining fighter didn't retreat. Instead, it circled back and fired repeatedly at the disabled Council ship, targeting its life support systems. "No survivors," T said softly, a grim satisfaction in his voice. "Just like they left none of ours." Hana didn't countermand the action. 3 months ago, she would have insisted on following proper military protocols, taking prisoners when possible. But that was before witnessing the systematic slaughter of millions. The rules had changed. That evening, after processing the newly arrived refugees, Hana met with Jin and Tai in her private quarters. A Spartan room carved from the asteroid containing only a bed, desk, and the few personal items she managed to save. "Jin, your discovery changes our strategy," she told Tai, explaining the breakthrough with Council technology. The Colonel considered the information. "So instead of just running and hiding, we can fight back." "More than that," Jin added, "we can turn their own weapons against them." Hana nodded. "I'm calling it Operation Prometheus, stealing fire from the gods." "Appropriate," T said, with the first hint of the smile Hana had seen from him in months. "But we'll need test subjects, Council tech to experiment with, which means we need to start raiding their outposts," Hana concluded. "Small targets first." Gathering intelligence and equipment, they spent hours planning the first offensive actions after months of desperate defense. As they worked, Hana felt something stir within the cold determination that had sustained her since the massacre, a spark of hope. The next morning, she addressed the survivors gathered in Sanctuary's main hall. Refugees, soldiers, colonists, the remnants of humanity's reach among the stars. "For 3 months we've been running," she told them. "For 3 months we've watched as everything we built was destroyed. The Council thought they could eliminate us as a threat." She paused, looking at the faces before her, haunted, grieving, but unbroken. "They were wrong. They didn't eliminate a threat, they created one. Today we stop running. Today we start fighting back." A murmur ran through the crowd, not cheers or applause, but something more profound, the sound of collective purpose finding its voice. As the meeting dispersed, Dr. Jen approached her with a nervous smile. "I didn't mention this earlier, but there's something else about our neural connection to their technology." "What is it?" Hana asked. "The Council systems register human brain patterns as errors, glitches in the system, but errors are memorable, they leave traces." His eyes met hers. "Every time we access their systems, it's like we're leaving a signature they can't ignore or forget." "Good," Hana said firmly. "I want them to remember who we are. I want our signature burned into their systems." Outside the viewport, the asteroid field concealed them from Council sensors, a veil of debris protecting humanity's last best hope. Behind that veil, the survivors prepared for war. The stolen Council shuttle drifted silently toward the research station, its transponder broadcasting the access codes that would get them past the outer security perimeter. Inside the cramped cargo bowl, 20 human soldiers checked their weapons one last time. 4 minutes to docking," the pilot's voice came through the comm system. "All systems nominal, they still think we're on a supply delivery." Colonel Toym moved through the tight space, meeting each soldier's eyes. "These men and women have all lost someone in the massacre, family, friends, homes. That loss has been forged into something deadly. Remember, we need their command center intact," he reminded them. "Dr. Jin needs access to their central database." The soldiers nodded. 6 months of fighting had taught them discipline. They didn't fight like traditional military units anymore. They struck like phantoms, vanishing before the enemy could respond. The shuttle shuddered slightly as the station's automated docking system took control through a small viewport. Tai could see the research facility, a sleek construct of silver and black orbiting an uninhabited gas giant in a system far from the main Council territories. "Docking complete," the pilot reported. "Station security requests standard cargo inspection. Let them in," Tai ordered. 2 Council security officers entered the shuttle's forward compartment, but they didn't get a chance to call for backup. The squad moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing the guards and securing the docking bay before the station even realized they were under attack. "Move," Tai ordered, "and have your forces spread through the station like water finding cracks." Back at Sanctuary Base, Admiral Hannah Park monitored the operation from the command center. 6 similar raids were happening simultaneously across Council space, each targeting a facility that held something humanity desperately needed. Echo Team reports success, a communications officer announced. They've secured the fuel processing station in the Riddle sector. Hannah nodded, marking the success on her display. Echo Team would strip the station of critical components and then rig it to self-destruct. By the time Council reinforcements arrived, nothing would remain but debris. 6 months earlier, such coordinated attacks would have been impossible, but that was before Operation Prometheus changed the nature of the conflict. Dr. Jin entered the command center carrying his customized tablet. "Status report on the test subjects," he said. A technician replied, "All neural interfaces are operating at optimal levels. Team leaders are successfully interfacing with the repurposed Council systems." Jin had perfected the technique of rewiring Council technology to respond to human neural patterns. The breakthrough allowed human soldiers to control stolen Council weapons and ships with unprecedented precision. More importantly, it let them bypass security systems designed to recognize only Council thought patterns. "Admiral," a young officer called out, "we have an incoming transmission from our Alacran contact." Hannah moved to a private communication station. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Vera, an Alacran diplomat who had secretly been feeding information to humanity since the massacre. Admiral Park listened as Vera's translator conveyed her chittering speech into human language. "The Council Inner Circle has called an emergency session. There is significant disagreement about the handling of the situation." "You mean the genocide they ordered?" Hannah asked coldly. Vera's compound eyes shifted in discomfort. "Some species never supported the action, others are now questioning its wisdom. Your resistance efforts have proven more effective than anyone anticipated." "Good," Hannah said. "What else?" "The dominant 7 are losing influence. Their military failures have weakened their position." Vera paused. "There is talk of seeking a negotiated solution." "They murdered millions of our people. There's nothing to negotiate, perhaps, but know this: the Council is fracturing. The unified front they presented 6 months ago is crumbling." After the transmission ended, Hannah returned to monitoring the raids on her display. She could see that Ty's team had penetrated to the heart of the research station. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Inside the station, Ty and his forces moved methodically through the corridors. The element of surprise had allowed them to secure the outer sections with minimal resistance, but as they approached the central laboratory, the defenders had organized a response. "Control room is 20 meters ahead," Ty's second-in-command reported. "Heavy resistance, at least 15 security personnel." Ty nodded and pulled a small device from his tactical vest, one of Jin's creations. The handheld unit interfaced with the station's environmental systems, allowing him to access functions that even the station commanders couldn't control. "Oxygen levels dropping in Section C7, a computerized voice announced over the station's comm system as the defenders rushed to investigate the false alarm. "Ty, lead your team toward the now lightly guarded control room," he ordered. The remaining guards fell quickly. Within minutes, T's tech specialist had secured access to the main computer core and was downloading research data. "Now," she reported, "this is a gold mine, weapon specifications, shield frequencies, fleet deployments." Ty allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. "How long?" 3 minutes for a complete download." "You have 2, he replied, knowing Council reinforcements would already be on their way. While his team worked, Ty explored the laboratory. The research station specialized in studying captured human technology, from simple agricultural equipment to advanced propulsion systems. The Council was trying to understand their enemy, to find weaknesses they could exploit. What they failed to realize was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technological, it was adaptability. Where Council species relied on predictable strategies refined over centuries, humans constantly changed their tactics, learning and evolving with each encounter. "Download complete," the tech specialist announced. "Plant the charges," Ty ordered. "We leave in 2 minutes." His team worked quickly, placing explosive devices at key structural points. The station wouldn't be destroyed, that wasn't the mission, but its research capacity would be crippled for months. As they retreated to the shuttle, Tai activated the final part of their plan using Jin's interface device. He initiated an emergency protocol buried deep in the station's operating system, one that even the Council had forgotten existed. Backup systems activated, sealing laboratory samples and initiating a quarantine lockdown that would take days to override. Back at Sanctuary Base, the successful raiders returned to a hero's welcome. All 6 operations had accomplished their objectives with only minimal casualties. As the stolen data was analyzed, the true magnitude of their victory became clear. They've constructed a comprehensive network to monitor all space in the former human territories, Jin explained as he studied the intel. But there are gaps, blind spots their sensors don't cover. Can we use these blind spots to move our fleet? Hannah asked, and Jin nodded eagerly. Better than that, I've identified a major Council military installation in the Vega sector. Their security is focused outward, not inward. They never expected an attack from within their own territory. How heavily defended is it? Tai asked. Significantly, but with what we've learned about their systems, I believe we can bypass most of their automated defenses. Hannah studied the facility schematics, her mind working through the possibilities. This installation houses their quantum communication hub for that entire sector. Exactly, Jin confirmed. If we could capture it intact, we could monitor all Council communications in a third of their territory, Hannah finished, and potentially disrupt their ability to coordinate their fleets. The planning took 2 weeks. Unlike the previous raids, this would not be a hit-and-run operation. They would need to capture the installation, hack, and hold it long enough to extract the communication protocols and encryption keys. The attack force consisted of 3 repurposed Council vessels, their control systems modified to accept human neural interfaces. Tai commanded the lead ship, with Hannah coordinating from Sanctuary Base. Approaching target, Tay reported as they dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Vega system. No indication they have detected us. Proceed according to plan. Hannah ordered, all teams, initiate Operation Broken Crown. The 3 ships separated, approaching the installation from different vectors. Using the codes they'd stolen in previous raids, they broadcast identification signals that registered them as maintenance vessels. The installation's outer defenses remained inactive. Only when they were within docking range did the facility's commander realize something was wrong. Unidentified vessels, halt your approach, Roach immediately, came the Council transmission. Authentication codes rejected, defense systems activating now. Tai ordered, all 3 ships simultaneously activate Jin's neural interface system. The human pilots mentally connected to the installation's defense grid, creating patterns of thought that the automated systems couldn't properly process. Weapon platforms that should have targeted them swiveled harmlessly away. Shield generators recycled through random configurations, creating gaps that the human ships exploited. We're in their systems, Tay reported. Docking procedures initiated. Inside the installation, chaos reigned as systems failed or acted unpredictably. By the time the Council defenders organized a response, human forces had already secured the main docking base. The battle for the installation was brief but intense. Council security forces fought desperately, but they were hampered by malfunctioning systems and confusion about which areas had been breached. 3 hours after the attack began, a human officer stood in the installation's command center, surveying their prize facility. Secured, he reported to Hannah. All opposition neutralized. We control the quantum communication hub. Back at Sanctuary Base, a cheer went up from the command staff for the first time since the massacre. Humanity had achieved a victory that couldn't be dismissed as a minor setback. Begin data extraction immediately, Hannah ordered. Priority on communication protocols and fleet deployment information. As Tai's team worked, the implications of their victory became clear. With access to the Council's secure communications, they could anticipate attacks, identify vulnerabilities, and potentially turn the Council's own forces against each other. Admiral, Jin said quietly as they reviewed the incoming data, I think we've reached a turning point. Hannah nodded, allowing herself a moment of cautious optimism. The Council thought they could exterminate us like pests. Instead, they've created an enemy that understands their weaknesses better than they do. Across Council space, the news of the installation's capture spread rapidly. For the first time, the mighty Galactic Council faced an opponent that couldn't be easily crushed, an opponent that grew stronger with each encounter. In the cold darkness between the stars, humanity's resistance had found its footing, and the Council had begun to fear. Admiral Hannah Park stood before the assembled fleet, a sight that would have been impossible to imagine 1 year earlier. 47 ships of various sizes and designs filled the viewport behind her. Some were original Earth vessels, others salvaged colonial craft, and many were captured Council ships, modified for human use. Each represented a victory, a testament to humanity's refusal to be exterminated. 1 year ago today, she addressed the commanders gathered in the war room. The Galactic Council attempted to wipe humanity from the stars. They slaughtered millions of our people without warning or mercy. The room remained silent. Everyone present had lost someone in the massacre. They expected us to break, but our resolve hardened. Instead, we adapted. We studied them. We learned their weaknesses, and now we strike back. The holographic display activated, showing their target, the Krell home world. The Krell had led the Council faction that orchestrated the genocide, providing both the political will and the military forces for the initial attack. Their High Counselor, Varric, had personally signed the extermination order. Operation Nemesis begins in 12 hours, Hannah continued. This isn't just a raid or a strategic strike. This is our message to the Council and to every species that supported the massacre. Humanity survives, and we will have justice. Colonel Takim studied the attack plan with cold precision. My personal squad will lead the most critical component, the capture of High Counselor Varric. Intelligence suggests the cow leader will be at his country estate during the attack, relatively isolated from the capital city. You understand your objective, Colonel? Hannah asked yes. When the briefing concluded, Admiral Ta's voice revealed nothing of the storm inside him. His family's faces still haunted his dreams, his wife and children who died when New Harmony burned. And now he would face the being most responsible for their deaths. We need him alive. Hannah said quietly, I know what he took from you, from all of us, but his value as a prisoner outweighs any satisfaction we might get from his death. T nodded once, his expression unreadable. My team will deliver him as ordered. In his laboratory, Dr. Jin made final adjustments to the Nemesis device. The technology represented months of reverse engineering Council quantum communications. Where their previous operations had merely allowed them to intercept transmissions, Nemesis could actively disrupt the entire network. The simulation shows a 94% effectiveness rate, Jin explained to the technical team. When activated, Council ships within the affected zone will lose the ability to coordinate. Their AI battle systems will default to basic protocols. How long will the effect last? Asked one of the engineers. 37 minutes before their systems adapt. Jin patted the device, ensuring more than enough time for our first wave to establish orbital superiority. As the fleet prepared to depart, Hannah received one final communication from their Alacran ally. The Council is in disarray, Vera reported. The Tates and Valdirians have officially withdrawn their support for the conflict. 3 other species are threatening to follow whatever you're planning. Admiral, know that the Council no longer speaks with one voice. Good, Hannah replied. Then they'll be unable to respond effectively when we strike. The human fleet departed in waves, using the blind spots they'd mapped in the Council's detection network. By the time the first Krell sensors detected anomalies, the lead ships were already entering their system. Aboard the command vessel, Hannah watched as the operation unfolded. The first phase went precisely as planned. The Nemesis device activated, sending a cascade of contradictory signals through the quantum network across the KR system. Defense platforms went offline. Warships lost communication with their command centers, and automated systems defaulted to basic functions. All ships commence attack, Hannah ordered. The human fleet struck with coordinated precision. Their targets were military orbital defense stations, shipyards, communications arrays, and planetary shield generators. Unlike the Council's indiscriminate bombardment of human colonies, Hana had explicitly ordered that civilian areas be avoided. "This is about justice, not revenge," she had told her commanders. "We will not become what we're fighting against." On the surface of the Krell home world, Colonel T led his team through the forested perimeter of High Counselor Varick's estate. The 12 soldiers moved silently, using equipment that masked their life signs from K-biosensors. "Security grid disabled," his tech specialist reported. "We have 7 minutes before their backup systems activate." The estate's defenses had been designed to repel conventional attacks: heavily armed checkpoints, automated sentry guns, aerial surveillance. None had anticipated the small team of humans who simply slipped through the gaps, using the Council's own technology against them. They encountered the first guards at the main house, 4 cow warriors armed with pulse rifles. T signaled his team to use non-lethal weapons. The guards dropped silently, paralyzed by targeted neural disruptors. In the second-floor east wing, Todd directed, consulting the building schematics they'd obtained from intelligence, a High Counselor's private chambers. They found Varick attempting to reach a secure communication terminal. The High Counselor of the Cow was taller than a human, with gray-green scaled skin and 4 upper lenses. He turned as the team entered, his yellow eyes widening in shock at the sight of human soldiers in his sanctuary. "Impossible!" he hissed, reaching for a concealed weapon. Todd fired first, the neural disruptor causing Varick to collapse as his team secured their prisoner. T stood over the paralyzed cow. "This is the being who ordered the death of his family, who casually signed the extermination order for millions of humans." For a moment, his hand moved to his sidearm. "One shot, that's all it would take. Justice for his wife, his children, for all the dead of New Harmony." "Colonel," one of his team asked, sensing his hesitation, "take a deep breath. Secure the prisoner for transport. We're leaving in orbit." The battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor. With their communications disrupted, the Krell Defense Forces couldn't coordinate an effective response. Individual ships fought bravely, but were overwhelmed. In the final hours, with Council communications in disarray, humanity prepared for the next phase of their counteroffensive. Dr. Jin's laboratory had shown that human neural patterns could bypass the Council's most secure systems. Now, the Nemesis device was poised to shatter the enemy's network further. The simulation had proven its worth, and the fleet's first wave was ready to establish orbital dominance. Admiral Hannah Park received one last update from their Alacran ally. "The Council is fracturing. The Tates, the Valdirians, and now 3 more species are withdrawing support. Then they won't be able to respond effectively when we strike," Hannah said firmly. The human fleet departed in coordinated waves, exploiting the blind spots in the Council's detection network. By the time the first Krell sensors picked up anomalies, the lead ships were already inside the system. Aboard the command vessel, Hannah watched the operation unfold. The Nemesis device activated, sending a cascade of contradictory signals through the quantum network across the KR system. Defense platforms went offline. Warships lost communication with their command centers, and automated systems defaulted to basic functions. "All ships commence attack," Hannah ordered. The human fleet struck with coordinated precision. Their targets were military orbital defense stations, shipyards, communications arrays, and planetary shield generators. Unlike the Council's indiscriminate bombardment of human colonies, Hana had explicitly ordered that civilian areas be avoided. "This is about justice, not revenge," she had told her commanders. "We will not become what we're fighting against." On the surface of the Krell home world, Colonel T led his team through the forested perimeter of High Counselor Varick's estate. The 12 soldiers moved silently, using equipment that masked their life signs from K-biosensors. "Security grid disabled," his tech specialist reported. "We have 7 minutes before their backup systems activate." The estate's defenses had been designed to repel conventional attacks: heavily armed checkpoints, automated sentry guns, aerial surveillance. None had anticipated the small team of humans who simply slipped through the gaps, using the Council's own technology against them. They encountered the first guards at the main house, 4 cow warriors armed with pulse rifles. T signaled his team to use non-lethal weapons. The guards dropped silently, paralyzed by targeted neural disruptors. In the second-floor east wing, Todd directed, consulting the building schematics they'd obtained from intelligence, a high counselor's private chambers. They found Varric attempting to reach a secure communication terminal. The high counselor of the cow was taller than a human, with gray-green scaled skin and 4 upper lenses. He turned as the team entered, his yellow eyes widening in shock at the sight of human soldiers in his sanctuary. "Impossible!" he hissed, reaching for a concealed weapon. Todd fired first, the neural disruptor causing Varric to collapse as his team secured their prisoner. T stood over the paralyzed cow. This is the being who ordered the death of his family, who casually signed the extermination order for millions of humans. For a moment, his hand moved to his sidearm. One shot, that's all it would take. Justice for his wife, his children, for all the dead of New Harmony. "Colonel," one of his team asked, sensing his hesitation, "take a deep breath. Secure the prisoner for transport. We're leaving in orbit." The battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor. With their communications disrupted, the Krell Defense Forces couldn't coordinate an effective response. Individual ships fought bravely, but were overwhelmed. As the human fleet prepared to depart in waves, using the blind spots they had mapped in the Council's detection network, the first Krell sensors detected anomalies too late. Aboard the command vessel, Hannah watched the operation unfold. The Nemesis device had activated perfectly, sending a cascade of contradictory signals through the quantum network across the KR system. Defense platforms went offline, warships lost communication with their command centers, and automated systems defaulted to basic functions. "All ships commence attack," Hannah ordered. The human fleet struck with coordinated precision, targeting military orbital defense stations, shipyards, communications arrays, and planetary shield generators. Unlike the Council's indiscriminate bombardment of human colonies, Hannah had explicitly ordered that civilian areas be avoided. "This is about justice, not revenge," she had told her commanders. "We will not become what we're fighting against." On the surface of the Krell home world, Colonel T led his team through the forested perimeter of High Counselor Varric's estate. The 12 soldiers moved silently, using equipment that masked their life signs from K-biosensors. "Security grid disabled," his tech specialist reported. "We have 7 minutes before their backup systems activate." The estate's defenses had been designed to repel conventional attacks: heavily armed checkpoints, automated sentry guns, aerial surveillance. None had anticipated the small team of humans who simply slipped through the gaps, using the Council's own technology against them. They encountered the first guards at the main house, 4 cow warriors armed with pulse rifles. T signaled his team to use non-lethal weapons. The guards dropped silently, paralyzed by targeted neural disruptors. In the second-floor east wing, Todd directed, consulting the building schematics they'd obtained from intelligence, a high counselor's private chambers. They found Varric attempting to reach a secure communication terminal. The high counselor of the cow was taller than a human, with gray-green scaled skin and 4 upper lenses. He turned as the team entered, his yellow eyes widening in shock at the sight of human soldiers in his sanctuary. "Impossible!" he hissed, reaching for a concealed weapon. Todd fired first, the neural disruptor causing Varric to collapse as his team secured their prisoner. T stood over the paralyzed cow. This is the being who ordered the death of his family, who casually signed the extermination order for millions of humans. For a moment, his hand moved to his sidearm. "One shot, that's all it would take. Justice for his wife, his children, for all the dead of New Harmony." "Colonel, secure the prisoner for transport. We're leaving in orbit," he ordered, his tone final. With communications disrupted, the Krell Defense Forces were unable to coordinate an effective response. Individual ships fought bravely, but were overwhelmed. Humanity had turned the tide, a message resounding across Council space that they would never again be exterminated without a fight. Admiral Hannah Park stood before the assembled fleet, a symbol of humanity's resilience and defiance. The Galactic Council had attempted to wipe humanity from the stars, but through unimaginable loss and sacrifice, humanity had not only survived but had grown stronger. Today, as the fleet prepared for its next move, Hannah's voice echoed in the war room. The Galactic Council tried to wipe us out. They slaughtered millions without warning or mercy. But we adapted, we learned, and now we strike back. We are humanity, and we will have our justice.